Hello, everyone. It's Dennis Allen, and this is another edition of Yes, He Can Be Trained, lessons being learned by a disciple in progress. That's me, the disciple in progress. It's Monday, September 5th. One of the most common questions that we get on the disciple dilemma is, can the church ever do discipleship right? Where's the good model? Where are the answers? Who's doing it the way we ought to do it? The question is really a sincere one, and it's an interesting one posed by most folks to ask, where do you look to find the model, the way you should do this? And certainly there are churches who have a fantastic discipling program and great results in their discipleship. But the interesting angle, certainly as I understand it, in a review of Scripture, in a deep dive on Scripture that ended up with us writing the book, The Disciple Dilemma, is the church, meaning the gathered body of believers on a Sunday or any other given day for ministry, missions, prayer, worship, praise, so on. That's important for a disciple, but that's not discipleship. A church can't actually do discipling. Only individuals can do that. There was a management guru in the 40s and 50s named Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker, fleeing from the Nazis, came to America trying to change society to the better. And he did some fantastic things with some fantastic pastors, and we talk about that in the book. But one of his most important contributions to management, organizational theory, is the importance of the individual and the individual alongside the individual. And in that, he begins to talk about culture at large. And what does he mean by culture? The fabric, the chemistry, the muscle memory and reflexes of people when leaders aren't around. How do they behave? How do they act? How do they work when people aren't with them who are in the leadership role? And Drucker's phrase was, culture eats strategy for breakfast. This is a very famous quote in the management world. And for us in the Christian community, this is important too, because what it tells you is there's no strategic plan, no programs, no seminars, no sermon series that by itself will outrun a culture that only leaders can develop. Leaders have to develop the culture of a Christian community, of a church. And that's where discipleship begins. Do we think about the full biblical import of discipleship, or are we just doing what everybody else is doing, running the seminars, sermon series, and small groups and hoping that it works? The ingredient that seems to be most often missing in the churches is the one-on-one, one-on-two. How do you create a culture where people naturally want to team up, walk alongside, understand each other, really get each other, and live as disciples beside disciples, and as disciples who are inviting non-believers to come along on a discipling journey? Maybe you don't tell them, I'm going to make you a disciple, but you are inviting them to come along on a walk, to kind of grasp this, to meet, to encounter, to evaluate the person of Jesus Christ. This is biblical. When Jesus was actively discipling, there weren't crowds involved. Now, you certainly see Jesus as an evangelist talking to crowds. You see him having crowds around him when he's doing discipling. But if you look in close, take the camera in close on the biblical passages, he's talking to 1, 2, 3. You can even see occasions when he's talking to the 12, but those are Passover teachings. Those are communion teachings, Last Supper, for example. He's really close in with 3 men, couple of women on one-on-one, one-on-twos, deeply discipling. We don't get that in the Western modern church. We just don't get it. So leaders, this is where I'm learning. I hope you would consider thinking about and learning this too, that this is a key missing ingredient. How do we create a culture where people want to team up and walk alongside each other to support and structure each other? It's unfair to put this on churches. It's unfair to expect the pastors to fix all this. But it's absolutely necessary that leaders help change the culture so that the rest of us can get this paired up, teamed up discipleship back in motion, the full biblical mantra of discipleship. That's who we are as followers of Christ. Would you please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and our website. Our website's thediscipledilemma.com. You can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and we would love to have you subscribe to us on YouTube. If you would do these things, it won't cost you anything financially, but it will help us get leverage in the digital marketplace to make the statement that discipleship's been hacked, and it's up to us in Christian community, leaders, and the folks who are watching this as believers to help make a difference. Help us with this, would you? We'd so appreciate it. Thanks for listening.